Well, Jason, thank you so much, and thank you to the Conservative Party and Chairman Kassar and their support in my election last year and their support in my congressional special election in 2022. I was proud to be the Conservative nominee for Congress and then, again, the Conservative nominee for the State Assembly. I've been elected to represent the 148th Assembly District, which is all of Cattaraugus County, all of Allegheny County, and a portion of Steuben County in the western and southern tier. So it's a wonderful area. It's a big district. It's about a 2-hour drive from end to end. All of that area was in the congressional district that I was blessed enough to represent. And I'm very excited to hit the ground running up here. Whether you're at state, federal, for a short time or a long time, in my mind, it's a sacred thing to speak for the people. So many people in the history of our world have not had the advantage of having a representative form of government. So I take the idea of speaking for the people, especially a portion of the state that sometimes feels a little bit neglected by Albany and by New York City. I take that responsibility very seriously, and I'm excited to be with my friends, and we've got a very close, tight-knit freshman class, and we're going to have a great team here holding it down for conservative values.
Sounds good. All right, thank you. Andrew Molitor, I have enjoyed working with your predecessor, Andy Goodell, all right, Assemblyman Andy Goodell, who now I understand is your intern in your office, right? Is that the role he's playing these days? So pretty interesting opportunity. So if you could tell us a little about your district and yourself.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I think it's interesting. I am literally Joe Sempolinski's neighbor, district-wise, and we're always sitting next to each other all the time. So I'm as far as you could possibly get from Albany. I know Andy always joked that there's about 8 other state capitals that are closer to his house than this one. That's true, actually. And my district is all of Chautauqua County and a little sliver of Erie County, Cattaraugus Indian Reservation. So before this, I was a prosecutor. In my county, our DA's office is not very large, maybe 12 attorneys. So I handled all different types of cases, homicides, violent assaults, drug crimes, gun crimes. I had a pretty large caseload. So I'm looking forward to working in the Assembly. I don't know if Andy knew this when he came to me and asked me if I would run, but I read every bill, I read every memo, I do as much research as I possibly can, and if I'm the only one voting no on a bill, it's for a good reason. So I think that far too often in this state, we pass laws just to pass laws, and there's way too many laws. And many of them are very bad laws. So we really need to think about what we're doing before we vote for a law, and that's my philosophy.
My predecessor used to say all the time that somewhere along the line we started calling legislators lawmakers, and they took us seriously, and they certainly do. And so they're always passing new laws. I really appreciate your stance, your predecessor. He speaks very highly of you, so I'm looking forward to the opportunity to get to work with you as well. Assemblywoman Andrea Bailey is from my home county. We just recently moved to Monroe County, but we were longtime Livingston County residents. And I had the pleasure of endorsing Andrea Bailey for county clerk when she ran for that. And I have to tell you that I appreciate the fact that she comes at her public service with a private mindset. And that's been true since her days serving in county government, and I'm excited to see what she's going to bring now into state government as well. So, Assemblywoman Andrea Bailey.
Thank you, Chairman. And I want to thank everyone for having me here tonight. It absolutely is an honor not only to be in this room with you, but also to be serving in Albany as an Assembly member. As Jason indicated, I have 20-plus years of private sector background, and most recently I was the Livingston County Clerk. Born and raised in Livingston County, the 133rd Assembly District includes all of Livingston County, parts of Ontario, parts of Steuben, Wyoming, and Monroe County. We have Rush. So I am looking forward to serving all of you. And as Andrew indicated, Andrew's across the hall from me, so you have Andrew and Andrea, very close by. As far as bills go and what drove me to run, and I heard it on the floor last week, and I was in utter disbelief as I heard it from one of the colleagues there that indicated when a bill was challenged as to the wording or why something wasn't done, what came back was, well, we're able to fix that. We can vote on it now and we can fix it later. That drives me insane. The reason I'm sitting here today is very similar to Andrew. I read the bills. And as I was reading bills that got passed that impact the county clerk's office, I sat there and scratched my head. I picked up the phone and called Pam Helming, called Marge Burns, and said, this is bad. Let's get it right the first time. So my conviction is to ask those questions and let's do what we can do to get it right the first time, because where the rubber meets the road, we can't leave people out there in limbo. So I look forward to working with my colleagues up here, and I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
All right. I fully confess, Mr. Norber, I do not know you well enough, but I look forward to getting to know you in this new session.
This is a good opportunity. My name is Daniel Jacob Norber. I was born in Los Angeles. I grew up in Israel my whole life. At some point, my parents wanted us to be a little bit more connected to Jewish-Israeli identity, so I grew up there. I served in the Israeli Defense Forces for 3 years. I was honorably discharged as a staff sergeant after 3 years after serving in the military police. I moved to New York right after because I wanted to fulfill the American dream. I believe that if you are a straight shooter and you are a good person and you do things by the book, that the American dream would present itself. And at some point, it did present itself, and I ended up owning a very successful moving and storage company in transportation logistics in New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut. But after a few years, I started seeing a lot of people starting to flee the state in that kind of business. I saw them moving to places like Texas and Florida. And a lot of the good people that were living here in the state were actually fleeing and moving because it just wasn't affordable anymore, a little bit more insanity in the city and the state. And I just felt like I needed to do something about it at some point. I always had some kind of a passion for politics, and I did get a degree in government. And I went ahead and I started to run. And really, like I said, this American dream that we all came here for, we need to protect it. We need to make sure that there's something left for our kids, because right now, with everything that's happening in the state, and I saw it firsthand in talking to customers, seeing with my employees, if it has to do with labor, if it has to do with healthcare, if it has to do with transportation, with so many workers' comp, it's just so many things and aspects of the state were starting to deteriorate, and of course in crime, and we just need to make this place a little bit more livable, because this is the best state in America, of course, and if we don't have New York, we don't have America, we don't have America, we don't have the world. And we need to make sure that we're continuing to elect officials, like the new members here that I'm so honored to be with today. I've been learning to get to know them the past few weeks and months, and so many people, great people here in our conference as Republicans and conservatives. It's just really, we have the best team, and there's no reason why we should not keep on winning. Now, I won a seat that was 54 years belonging to Democrats. Now that just proves that New York is changing, and New York is seeing that we need to elect people who will make a difference. And we can make a difference. We just need to fight hard and keep the momentum going, and it will happen. Just a little bit about my district. I'm in the 16th Assembly District, which is between Great Neck, Manhasset, Port Washington, Roslyn, and that whole area. So, thank you. Thank you. Oh. So Long Island, yay. But again, everything that we did there, we could do everywhere else. And we have great leadership, either if it's Long Island with Chairman Cairo or Jerry Kassar. Thank you so much for having me here. You guys are all great mentors, and I'm really honored to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, some would say, because he previously served the New York City Council, they may have had a leg up in running for office. Personally, we invited him to speak at CPAC last year, and we think his CPAC attendance propelled him to victory in the state assembly race, all right? But it's good to have Assemblyman Kalman Yeager with us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you. First of all, I expect great cheer when I say that I'm from Brooklyn, because our chair is from Brooklyn, and Jerry Kassar has had my back for a very long time, and I'm very grateful for his leadership. When I was here last year speaking at CPAC, I was not a candidate for the assembly, was supporting my assemblywoman, had ordered up petitions with her name on it, and was ready to go. She was a 44-year incumbent and the chair of the Ways and Means Committee. And a few weeks later, she decided that she wasn't going to run, and here come I. I served in the city council for 7 years. I was elected 3 times. The city council, hold your applause, is the place where common sense goes to die, which is why in the city council we created, at the end of my first term, a Common Sense Caucus. And it was made up of Republicans and Democrats, people who were committed to making New York better. And that really shouldn't seem like a novel idea. Really, I think that's why we run for office, and I think that's why I know that's why I ran for office, and I do hope that that's why most people run for office. I know my colleagues up here ran for office for that reason. In the city council, we find that that's not necessarily why a lot of people run for office. And our Common Sense Caucus was really about what it's called. It's about talking about the things that mean something to the average New Yorker, to the regular New Yorker who's just, trying to walk down the street without getting slapped in the back of the head or pushed in front of a subway, trying to run a small business without your alphabet soup of agencies coming crushing down on them and shutting them down, just trying to make it work in New York City. And it's very much easier said than done. And there are a lot of reasons for that, and I really do believe that one of the reasons for the Common Sense Caucus is the reason that it's so hard to do that in New York. Because people, I think, were looking for common sense. And from every district from every borough in New York City, we had membership on the Common Sense Caucus, except Manhattan. Make of that what you will. I think that brand of common sense is really what's lacking in a lot of service in New York City. It's what's lacking in a lot of what you see in New York State. And I think that if we really take a step back from legislating for the tweet, which I don't do, and I know my colleagues don't do that, legislating for the concept of, what's going to get the most, likes on Twitter, what's, standing on the street and, just yelling at the top of your lungs, shutting down this, that, or the other thing because you're not getting your way, is not really how I think people want to see their government. And I think the last couple of elections, we're seeing that more and more. So being up here with, I believe, common sensors, even though we don't have that as a formal caucus, but being able to talk to people from across the aisle, and I do have a funny story about that. In my the first day of session when we elect the speaker, it's not a secret, I voted for the Democratic candidate for speaker because I'm a Democrat. And when the minority leader gave his welcome speech, he said something I liked. It's gonna happen from time to time. So I applauded. And then people started looking at me, and so I just whispered to my neighbors, that not a thing we do up here, applaud when the other guy says something we agree with. And my neighbor said, "Oh, you're gonna do great up here." So, I do think that there's a place for us to be able to talk to one another. Daniel and I became friends. We have a common connection, obviously. He was, his connection to Israel is so important to me in my life. And I'm grateful to him for everything he's done protecting my family there. But more to the point, that I heard him speak last week on Holocaust Memorial Day, and he talked about his family coming from Europe in a town that no longer existed, was completely decimated with no survivors, and it spoke to my experience as the great-grandchild of those same people, maybe in a different town. Grandsons of Holocaust survivors here in Albany, New York, in the same building that FDR walked the halls, where Teddy Roosevelt served in the chamber in which we serve, is an incredible honor and privilege, and I'm very grateful for it every day.
All right, couple of softball questions, light ones, okay? And you don't all have to respond, but if this triggers you anyway, feel free to respond. Your first impression when you came up to serve as an elected official in New York State, What was that experience like for you the first time you came into that Capitol as an elected official?
Sit down. Well, I got sick. I literally got sick to my stomach. I had some sort of stomach bug. Albany made me sick.
It's not the first time we've heard that.
I came in with my family for the swearing-in ceremony, of course. It was kind of symbolic because I actually came there with my children, only my kids and my wife. And that's pretty much why I was sitting there for. And having my son, my youngest, my 8-year-old, just sit there on my seat. It's like, you know what? I'm doing this for you. I'm sitting here just because we want something for my kids to inherit New York that they could believe in and benefit from. So I loved it that I came in there with my family. I think it's the best thing.
Yeah, I feel sort of similar to Daniel, where I was pleased to have my wife, my children there, and we got a chance to get all sworn in together. And similarly, when here comes Senator Kluczynski. Welcome, everybody. Hey. Same thing in Congress, where and in both instances, I had a chance to acknowledge my kids. My older daughter has Down syndrome. She's a big part of the reason I bother to get up in the morning and acknowledge her as my hero, which is what she is. So if you start the term with the people that matter the most to you, your wife, your kids, you're going to probably not go too far astray, hopefully, when you're casting votes.
Best place you found in food in Albany since you've been here?
I could take this one. It's the food that I pack with me to bring up here because can't find any kosher in Albany.
Well, I hope you're here for dinner tomorrow night. We took care of you, okay?
I appreciate that, and you did last year too, and I'm grateful.
Excellent. All right. Hey, I know time is getting away, but just to follow up with the comments just made, I'm in my 18th legislative session here in Albany. I'm not an elected official. I'm a lobbyist. But through all the warts, all the problems that our state and our nation has, I can't help but walk into the Capitol and just be in awe that I get to serve in this place. And many of you have served before in other capacities or whatever, but I just hope that you, in the midst of the difficult budget battles, in the midst of the late night sessions that will come, the all night sessions that will come, that we will not grow so cynical that we forget what an honor it is to serve in the capacities that you do. So thank you for serving in the capacity that you do, and we look forward to getting to know you more and working with you as the Conservative Party here of New York State. And on that note, I'd like to welcome our chairman to the podium, Chairman Gerard Cassar, our state chairman.
So I do have the privilege of knowing a number of these new members. I don't know them all, and I will get to know you all. I'm up here too frequently, and we'll get to know each other better. But here's the major reason I wanted to just say a few words. They chose public service. We've chose politics. There's a definite overlap. The public service they've chosen is not easy. Coming here is a trip. Coming here every week is a major trip. It takes away from your families. It becomes a lifestyle of its own. And to be honest with you, I hope you'll all consider term limits. Maybe a few years, but let it be. Let it be something you think about. And in that vein, I want you to know that we do have a platform. You have your own local leaders. You should check in with them. We monitor. It's important to us that you vote right. Some of you I know so well that I can't imagine you voting wrong. Your local leaders have sent you to us with the Good Housekeeping seal of approval. But it's immensely important that we support you as you support us. And we do these events every year. The more time you spend with us, the happier we are, and certainly with your own county organization. So on behalf of the New York State Conservative Party, I want to welcome these members of the class of I guess you'd consider the class of 225, right? Of 225 to the New York State Legislature. Congratulations. And with that, I think we're going to break, right? But I'll give it to Jason. Who knows?
Yep, and because I had one more thing I wanted to do, all right? But I want you to know how much people back home are already advocating for you, that I can't stand by the door without a chairman come to me and say, make sure he gets a chance to speak. He will, don't worry, all right? But we did want to give you a chance to introduce yourself, say hello, and then I'm going to go ahead and take care of dismissing some things. So just know you're the last thing between us and the reception.
Okay, very good, thank you.
No pressure.
I will be brief. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for the support. It's great to see familiar faces from Erie County here that helped me vastly in my election in November. And I look forward to supporting conservative Republican values in Albany. And if you would have asked me a year or so ago if I would be here today doing this, I would have probably told you not in a good chance of seeing me here. But I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to join the fight, and hopefully we can swing the pendulum back into the middle of the, find some middle ground with some of these folks out in here in Albany, and fight for our conservative Republican values, because that's more or less what got me into this whole run in the first place. So I want to thank you, and look forward to working with you all. Have a good night.
All right, I do enjoy the swearing-in ceremony, yours as well as others, watching your family come up and getting to meet them a little bit. That's been a lot of fun. And I hope that tonight, as we leave this room and kind of spill out into the East Gallery for a reception, that you'll take the time to get to know these members, talk to them, ask them questions, get to know them, and figure out how we can support them going forward. Because taking out an 8-year incumbent is not easy to do, but that does not mean it's the end of the road. You have to fight for it every 2 years. So let's get their backs. All right? All right, thank you. At this point, let's dismiss to our reception in the East Gallery.